From the outside, Daniel looked like just another ordinary person. Nothing about him stood out. He did not speak loudly. He did not demand attention. He did not try to impress anyone, and because of that, the world slowly decided to ignore him. At school, teachers remembered the students who talked the most, not the ones who listened. Daniel listened carefully, but no one noticed. When group discussions happened, his voice was lost before it could even be heard. He learned very early that silence makes you invisible, growing up invisible. Daniel grew up believing that being quiet meant being unimportant. At family gatherings, adults praised his cousins for their confidence and achievements. Daniel sat in a corner, smiling politely, hoping someone would ask him something. No one did. When he tried to share his thoughts, someone interrupted him. When he stayed quiet, no one asked why. Slowly, he stopped trying. He told himself, maybe this is just who I am. Maybe I am meant to stay in the background. But deep inside, something still burned. A small, stubborn voice whispered, "You are more than this." The weight of being overlooked, being ignored does not hurt all at once. It hurts slowly. It hurts when your effort is unseen. It hurts when your ideas are dismissed. It hurts when people assume you have nothing valuable to offer. Daniel carried this pain every day. At school, he worked hard, but praise went to others. At home, his parents were busy surviving their own struggles. They loved him, but love without understanding can still feel lonely. When Daniel talked about his future, the response was always the same. Be realistic. Choose something safe. Don't dream too big. So Daniel learned to shrink his dreams. A hidden world. There was only one place where Daniel felt free. His notebook. At night, when the world finally became quiet, Daniel wrote. He wrote about people who were misunderstood, people who were ignored, people who carried pain silently but never gave up. Writing was not a hobby for him. It was survival. On those pages, Daniel could speak without interruption. His thoughts mattered. His words had power. But he kept this world secret, because sharing his writing meant risking rejection. And rejection. The room buzzed with excitement. Daniel's heart beat faster. This was his world. This was his strength. For a brief moment, hope rose inside him. Then fear crushed it. What if I fail? What if they laugh? What if I prove everyone right? He looked around and saw confident students smiling, already sure of themselves. Daniel lowered his head. He almost let the moment pass. The night everything changed. That evening Daniel could not sleep. His mind replayed the announcement again and again. He imagined himself not trying. He imagined the regret. He imagined staying invisible forever. And then he realized something painful. Ignoring his dream hurt more than failing ever could. That night, Daniel made a promise to himself. I may be ignored by others, but I will not ignore myself anymore. He signed up for the competition, quietly, without telling anyone, the hardest work no one saw. Daniel began working on his story, not for praise, not for recognition, but because this was his one honest chance. He woke up early to write. He stayed up late to edit. He rewrote the same paragraph dozens of times. Some days, the words flowed. Other days, nothing made sense. Self-doubt visited him often. Who do you think you are? Do you really believe this will matter? But Daniel kept going. He had learned something important. Progress does not need an audience. Fighting the inner voice. The hardest battle Daniel fought was not against people. It was against himself. The voice inside him tried to pull him back into silence. You're wasting your time. No one will care. You'll be ignored again. But this time, Daniel answered back. Maybe they will ignore me, but at least I will know I tried. And that was enough to keep going. The day of truth. The competition day arrived. The hall was full. Laughter, whispers, confidence. Daniel sat quietly, his hands cold, his heart loud. Story after story was read. Some received applause. Some received polite silence. Daniel felt smaller with each passing moment. Then the final story was announced. This story, the teacher said, is about quiet strength. Daniel stopped breathing when silence turned into power. As the words were read aloud, something changed in the room. The noise faded. The whispers stopped. The story spoke of loneliness, patience, and inner strength. It spoke of a person who was ignored but never stopped believing in growth. People listened, not because the voice was loud, but because the message was real. For the first time in his life, Daniel felt seen without speaking. The moment of recognition. When the story ended, there was silence, then applause, real applause, the kind that comes from understanding. Who wrote this? The principal asked. Daniel stood up slowly. The same people who never noticed him were now looking at him, but something was different. Daniel was not seeking approval anymore. He had already won something greater. After the applause, life did not suddenly become perfect. Some people still ignored him. Some still doubted him. But Daniel had changed. He no longer needed to prove himself to everyone. He learned that being ignored does not mean being powerless. Growth happens quietly. Self-belief matters more than recognition. Daniel continued writing, not because people noticed, but because he finally noticed himself. The deeper truth. Many people spend their lives waiting to be chosen, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be validated. But the truth is simple. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need applause to begin. Sometimes, the strongest transformations happen when no one is watching. A message for you. If you feel invisible today, if you feel ignored, if you feel like your efforts don't matter, remember Daniel, remember this truth. The world may ignore you for a long time, but consistency has a voice louder than doubt. One day, without shouting, without explaining, without asking for attention, you will prove them wrong. Tomorrow, being ignored is not the end of your story. It is often the beginning of your strength.